we have people do all kinds of crazy things to get customers taken care of. And I know a lady was in the checkout line at Walmart and her debit card wouldn't work one day. And a lady that runs our debit card department got the cash out of her account for her with the customer's permission, of course, and drove that to Walmart and delivered it to the customer. I mean, we just do whatever it takes to get the customer taken care of. And I think that's unique in today's banking environment.
If I could take a brief moment before you convene the meeting, show you a couple of photographs that we've assembled, and then we'll convene the work session and talk about maybe what we want to do next week for our future agenda items. Some of y'all may have seen this. This is 7th Street on the south side of the Chase building. We've already run a backhoe with a bucket on it through there once. It's 4 foot, Chris. It was over there. This was early yesterday morning. These are not in the order, and I apologize. This is during the part of the storm on Monday. We're on 10th looking east, and there you've got about a block and a half visibility as we move through that. Anybody been under the 10th Street underpass just right down here? That's the snowdrift that you'll see, which obviously the part of that extends into the road has to be completely dug through to get a tunnel to move.
Now wait a minute, that's on the side of the
that's on the north side of this underpass right here under the railroad tracks.
Really?
And I
That's
just changed
snow
this that way,
built
so
up in
it is a fantastic job.
Just filled that hollow. Just filled it. Yeah. It's phenomenal. This is looking north. There are those Vineyard Manor apartments that are being redone. And again, you've got at best a block and a half visibility, which would be 450 feet. So pretty intense through there. The north-south streets did not drift near as badly as the east-west streets, but still a significant snow depth. In no place were we getting down to the pavement and driving in there. I told y'all yesterday evening about having to dig our way through 34th between Arthur and Osage. So for this picture, I've just made the turn at Osage and pulled over and then took that photo, and you can see the school bus kind of as a scale example of that. This was yesterday afternoon from the second floor of the airport terminal building. So the scale is difficult, but there's places that was 5+ feet that they cut through to get to that. I think I've told most of y'all before, but as a reminder of what it takes to we only keep runway 422, the big runway. That's the runway that we focus on keeping open and getting reopened, and only once that's done do they move over to the shorter one. But to plow the entirety of runway 422 is over 90 acres of concrete. In fact, I think it's about 92, but to give you a sense. During the height of the storm in the airport, y'all have all seen the big blowing machine we have. And told y'all in the past it's rarely used. Well, it was used in this, and it was used to knock holes big enough that those plows could engage and start trying to move their way through that. This is Hillside. And I know the mayor had a chance to drive that section this morning between Coulter and Swansea. 1 mile segment, about 3/4 of that mile looks like this. This was not done with plows. This was entirely dug out with loaders. We hit the point on many of the east-west streets where the plow trucks couldn't move. I mean, they just hit the stuff and stopped. So you pick it up with the big front end loaders and then try to bring the plows behind you. But that's a Suburban. To give you a sense of how much snow is piled up at that particular place.
And it's on both sides of Hillside.
Yes, it's on both sides of the hillside.
That's one side. That appears to be the north side.
That is the north side, correct. But you still see that those entire tracks and the loaders do that. I think that's City Hall parking lot. That's the service center. These are all two-wheel drive trucks, so we didn't touch them until we get late yesterday afternoon. We actually began doing shift crews in, not necessarily to work on moving snow, but to work on removing our other trucks and other equipment so it would be available to us today. There you go. There's a Ford pickup underneath there.
Forward leaning.
Forward leaning Ford pickup.
Oh my
I don't even know which one of our vans that is, but it's likely to still be there this morning. This is Knoll Street. This is the street that runs from Western over to the new City View Elementary. Knoll has become rapidly one of our challenges. It is on top of a knoll. And to the north side, it's largely open, 1 or 2 homes. To the south side, we've got a solid row of homes. This is the primary access to City View. They started very early today, literally with 2 big machines trying to dig their way through and still accommodate a little bit of traffic. We did have delays out there. Apologize for that, but again, this was not something that could be handled with our normal equipment to do that. This is the famous Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Jim Sims. And I promise that police car's not moving anywhere near as fast as it looks like it is.
I'm just talking fast.
He's talking fast, and as he was talking, a hot air balloon exploded and plummeted 1,000 feet. So we're not sure about that.
It has nothing to do with hot air.
These are some submitted photos. I can't tell you exactly where that is. That's power crew obviously trying to right that pole and get it held up long enough that they can get power restored. Yeah, this one, you can get in here. There's another one of a large private 4x4 with a BSA ambulance chained to it, dragging it down the streets. Overall, we're just almost 48 hours now into the recovery phase of this. It began Monday at 3 o'clock when the snow and the wind let off. We're certainly not done, but the vast majority of your arterials in Amarillo are open. Again, many of those on the east-west were actually dug to get open. All of the equipment that could be brought to bear well above and beyond what's typical for our snow response was put on this. At one time, we had 8 of the water utilities machines engaged in doing this. Beginning midday yesterday, we started peeling a couple of those off to get them reloaded and get them ready to deal with any water main issues.
I was fixing to say, because on those conference calls that kept being talked about around 9 o'clock this morning, so that they thought that they were going to have trouble with the start.
I think we had one yesterday and one today. One of the water main breaks, which is a very low number.
What's the causation of that?
Temperature swings. You get the moisture in the ground, you freeze it, it pushes, and then it relaxes and it freezes. Same thing that destroys an asphalt street.
Okay.
That water gets down into the surface of that asphalt, it freezes, expands, breaks, and then the next time it liquefies again, it gets deeper and it does it again. So that's
it would have been a lot worse if we had
absolutely. And very fortunate that other than the wind chills, this never really got cold. I want to say 24 is the lowest we've had empirical temperature. Certainly cold if you were out in the wind, but in terms of helping our machinery, the soils and stuff, it just hadn't been as bad as it could. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to call us to order for the work session, I'll talk about a follow-up to this maybe for next week. We have had the recorder around, so we're
I'd like to just say something. I kept track through your emails and television and all that, and in 2 days' time, considering that I had a 3-foot drift behind my car and I didn't think I was going to get out, I'd like to thank everyone that was involved in these emergency operations, and to have the arterial streets where you can at least get by in one lane under the circumstances, I think is really admirable. And so thank you all for burning the midnight oil and making sure that everybody was doing their job and that we were prepared. That's the main thing. We were ready to go.
Well, I appreciate people. I know a couple of these recent storms where we got a lot of complaints about the way we had to deal with the snow. I think people were adequately educated by the city at that point. So now their expectations have changed. I have not heard a single complaint. Everybody's so impressed with the way, how quickly, if you open things up, that I think you might be committed.
Yeah, miracle work.
The teams were just phenomenal.
Well, I had the privilege and the experience to listen to the conference calls that they would have periodically during the day. And I guess most people on there were remote, or not over at the EOC. And however many 8, 9, 10, 12 departments that were responding to the city manager as to what they were doing, what kind of progress were we making, what help did they need. Garrett was very, very good about continuing to ask, what do you need? And everybody's attitude was so good and positive. And then they were getting it done, and there was a lot of cooperative help. Hardest guy to get along with sitting here to my left. Well, he'd ask Chief Taylor if he needed it. Nope. That's it. That was the end of the conversation. And a few words.
Well, I had a situation yesterday where there were doctors trying to get the intensive care unit to see their patients.
Sure.
And they exited Amarillo Boulevard West, and they all got lined up on that exit ramp. And I actually called Vicki and Jared and said, "We got these guys trying to get to the hospital. They're all within 15 minutes." They were there and cleared that out, and those cars were starting to roll. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. The response time for a problem like that.
Well, and get ready. We know that people will bitch because the arterials have been plowed or in pretty good shape, but the residentials are not. And I pointed out earlier in the conversation, within the city limits of Amarillo, and this is a matter of record, we have over 1,000 miles of paved roads. No way that we could get them all done. And then people that just will not heed warnings. Stay inside. Please do not get out on the road. I don't know what you do about that, except maybe.
I ordered all the cars that were in the arterials last night.
But they had been there.
Oh, they
cheap for over 24 hours.
Yeah. And those calls. And at some point you got to move them
so they can clear the streets, so that the fire truck can get by, so that the ambulances get by. People die whenever things get clogged up.
So anyway, job well done.
Yes, very well.
We can just for the media in the room, kind of add a little bit to the comments on the residential streets. We do the arterials first. We do all the medical center routes, trying to keep that open and accessible to the extent that we can. We'll then do collector streets, your bigger streets within a residential if we can get to them. Streets like Fulton, for example. But at some point, and the point for us was last night at shift change at 8 p.m., we stopped that other than the problem areas, and we have what are called the school routes. In the school routes, we attempt to come from the major access point, be that an arterial or a collector, from a major access point to each school site in Amarillo, and try to get all the way around it and get that open. Then we go back and get back on our hot spots and our arterials and those types of things. Residential streets, even were we to have the equipment and the manpower, you just practically can't do it. Normal residential street in Amarillo is about 31 feet wide. You put a car on each side of that, you put a 10-foot wide snowplow down it, where are you going to go? Where are you going to put the snow that you're pushing? At that point, there's not a place to put it in the middle, so one side or the other is totally buried, and you've actually made that worse. And then with a cul-de-sac or others, you can't turn the equipment around and then get it back out. And it would take months if you were to try to do it with loaders and pick it up and move it. You just, we can't. We can't do that. It's impossible. So.
And you further complicate people getting out of the driveway because you just pushed a bunch of snow at them.
Well, I may be able to give them a clear street, but they're going to have a 3-foot windrow to try to get across to get out of the driveway. So those questions started. We did an interview with one of the news stations yesterday and kind of reiterated some of those challenges. I didn't get a chance to watch and see what part of that made it out. But it's a good question. Certainly we'd like to be able to help all that. Would say that today we did get spec trains back running. The demand for that was huge after it being shut off for 2 days. And we set that up to where the two big Wildman trucks, which are four-wheel drive fire engines basically, have been detailed all morning to be sure those spec train buses can get in and out of those residential areas. Because again, even if we had the equipment, we couldn't follow them and use it to dig our way back and forth, but those big engines can move a lot. Mayor, a thought that we had, next week is your evening meeting, first meeting of the month. If you would prefer, we can put together a little better pictorial of this and maybe have some representatives of some of those departments available for you if you have questions or anything.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It was, all of our emergency responses are always team efforts, and I've always been very, very proud of it. Same thing here in the flexibility and the adaptability. You've had employees that have basically lived at their workstations since Sunday evening. Many of our places are set up for that. The ones that weren't accommodated. Chief Taylor ended up with his police cars parked, driving around in animal control trucks. Anything else we could find, we'll drive and had a radio. And you ended up at one point with 3 officers per vehicle to be able to help if we needed to help or to pull them out. I mean, just whatever we needed to do to try to keep that going. And that continued till last night.
Some of the exercises that I've observed, the ones I remember distinctly that were at the airport, before they were fake, they were exercises. And then you had a debriefing.
Yes.
Do y'all do that after a situation like this? Or each department, like those that you were asking, how they were doing, blah, 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 or we can, how can we do it better next time?
Exactly. Not at this point because we're still in recovery.
Sure.
But as we wind down those departments internally, we'll critique their efforts. Okay, guys, what worked, what didn't, what equipment held up, did we have a lot of breakages of a common device, and if we did, why? They'll work their way through that. We'll give them time to do that. Then we'll bring them in kind of on the level you see in the EOC with the directors and the department heads, and each one of them will do their piece, and then we'll try to tie it all back together, from that executive team in the EOC. We also, in fact, I think it got scheduled. We'll have a similar meeting with both TxDOT and DPS to talk about that and the coordination. What could we do different? What could we do better? This case, the flexibility we saw with our teams, we've always had utility department equipment, parks equipment has been detailed to do public buildings. Get the big parking lots up and open, get the big sidewalks cleaned, and we've got equipment made to do
public buildings, not private property.
We gave up on that very early Monday and instead began pulling all that equipment off and assigning it to the streets. Now, that's not their normal piece of the work, so the street department then provided a supervisor with a truck for each team of those utility department backhoes, for example, that dug their way through downtown. Most of the cleanup downtown, east and west, was done by backhoes and front-end loaders from the utilities department and from the park department. Those men and women are very good at what they do, but the snow part of it on the public streets hasn't necessarily been, Airport was able a couple of times to get equipment and at least make one swipe up and down Airport Boulevard. That, of course, is a TxDOT right away, and TxDOT did get out there with big equipment and work it late yesterday because they had bigger things they needed to do. So we were able to at least get people in and out. And when I went through the airport last night, it was a ghost town. I cannot imagine, but it was ready. So we were prepared. But yes, we'll follow up with that. It starts small and then we just build it up until we kind of know. Always lessons to learn.
What I could observe and listen to on those conference calls, great job.
Yeah.
With a great attitude.
Phenomenal group. They did it well. Okay, we'll set something up for next week and maybe have a few more pictures that we can show. Try to bring some. I'd like to bring every one of them in, but that's going to be something on the order of 400 people that have been at this since late Sunday. I have trouble fitting that. We'll get representatives.
Basically a quarter of your workforce.
Wow. Police overstaffed, fire overstaffed, with all the airport response people, and then we've had the city garage open since midnight Sunday. We kept it fully staffed to try to put stuff back on the road if we could get it back on the road. It went down. We've had a team commissioned and grateful enough, good enough to buy us a new fuel truck 2 years ago after the big wildfire. That fuel truck's been running laps around Amarillo. We typically want equipment to come into the service center to fuel because it also gives us a chance to service and maintain it and push it back out, hoping it'll last a little longer. This was moving fast enough. We didn't bring equipment in other than for shift changes. We instead took fuel to them, including running laps of all the fire stations in Amarillo. We did lose fire station 2 due to drifting. That's the one on 34th and Sonsi. We had a skid loader stationed out there, and we could not keep it where the truck could get out. So we pushed it out, got it to another fire station, and let that one go until it slowed down enough we could get it back open. At no time, other than the Stucks, did you have anything less than all of our equipment available. It just didn't all operate out of its normal home without this one.
Well done.
Thank you. Let's do the agenda if we could, Mayor, then we have a brief presentation and discussion from the police chief. Quick closed session, and we'll get to the meeting and get everybody moving.
I have one more question. Can we maybe mobilize some cities and help them do We're going to have a huge population.
Within 9 minutes.
I can tell you it won't be the ones that we were working around on the streets.
I'll probably catch up with you. I was about to say.
Oh my God.
Just saying, you got to plan ahead for these.
All the lights went out in New York.
Well, we hope y'all are able to mobilize additional crews for that, Dr. Reed, at the appropriate time.
Okay.
How about the minutes?
There is a slight correction. Item 3. My name is changed to Icahida instead of Escajeda.
It did change.
That's the only thing.
Okay.
Just a misspelling.
Any more of those? I blame that on the keyboard was frozen, but these were actually prepared prior to that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
One change.
Yeah, everything else looks
Missing S. Was there somewhere else that had 2 S's?
no. It escaped.
Sometimes they run around. Item 2, public hearing team curfew renewal. Mayor, this will be the exact same item as you conducted 1 week ago. The chief is prepared to present his request again, although unless you see the need for it, we'll instead have him available to field any questions you may have. And then, of course, any questions or comments from the public who choose to appear and such.
And that's a hearing. No action.
That's a hearing. You will open the hearing, call for those comments. Following any comments or questions you may have, you'll close the hearing. No action needed, and we'll move to item number 3. Item number 3, ordinance 7392. This is the second and final of the ordinance that readopts actually, the curfew. So we will need action on that item. Any questions or comments on those? Okay.
If I may, if we can still get that order to the paper and get that published tomorrow, we'll still be on our original schedule, but 1 day delayed here. Bother that, and if it gets delayed, they publishing again, still have enough slack in the schedule.
That it continue in force.
Almost a BLT show. BL.
Item number 4, ordinance 7393. This is changing the zoning over at Sonsi Road and Charter Avenue. This was for that new bank and associated retail. Kelly, any changes, comments?
No changes or comments.
Mayor, Commission? Item number 5, ordinance 7395. This is the rezoning out in Westcliff. And again, this is that drainage area. And you see the change there to a planned development district specifically for residential and grazing purposes. And recall that while that's a very large tract, I believe 28 acres, Kelly? 28 acres, that's one home and very limited grazing, and that's land that cannot, most of it is land that cannot be built upon because of the flood zones. Any changes?
Great use of that property.
You don't remember his name.
Item number 6, resolution, Potter Randall Appraisal District. This is specifically the Potter part of such appraisal district. This is your opportunity to make a nomination to fill a vacancy. An expired term is there now. And I believe Mr. Lenny Sadler, who is a Potter County resident and qualifies, has indicated he's willing to accept.
Mm-hmm. I mean, very excited.
Now, just find out that
Ultimately, the Potter half of that board will take the nominations from the entities. Don't know that all will choose to submit or that they won't. But they have to select from nominations they receive. And all those nominations are equally weighted rather than the voting part of this where you're weighted by your tax rate, which is where we always kind of fall short and don't have a lot of influence. So this is a good opportunity.
And the wording on this is correct, to fill a vacancy on the board of directors of the Potter County Appraisal.
That is correct.
Okay.
There's actually 2 boards.
Yes.
The Potter board, the Randall board. Collectively, that's the Potter Randall Appraisal District. Mm-hmm. 2 separately constituted boards, obviously separately.
So if you're Randall, you just present the Randall.
Correct. Any questions on your agenda? Mayor, if we could, I'd ask Chief Taylor to come up. And he'll just briefly go over the 2012 racial profiling report from the police department and field any questions or comments that you may have.
Okay, well, a couple of years ago, Close took over reporting repository for all of the stats for the state, and so that greatly simplified the report for us. Used to, we'd get a pretty big report and give you a lot of statistics, but now that's all kind of punched down to 1 page, which is good news for everybody. Greatly simplifies our work. We have a program that for citations, every citation we do is paper written, is entered into our database that Brazos takes care of, and then they produce this. That's what they do, is they produce that page for us, and I just input it into the Close database. Not any surprise, had about 65,000 citations that came out to roughly 21,224 different stops. So, in other words, people got multiple tickets multiple times. And you see about 10% of the time we're conducting some kind of search. 60% of those searches, roughly, are non-consent. And the reason they're non-consent is because most of the time those people are under arrest or they have and no complaints of racial profiling from last year. That's about it. There's really not a whole lot to go as far as percentages because we just don't compute those anymore. We just fill out that information.
Chief, talk just briefly reminder how part of the reason we're able to do the reports in this manner is that all of your patrol vehicles have the audio and video recordings and all those stops.
Yeah, and so if you didn't have that equipment in there, you have to do Tier 1 and Tier 2 reporting, which is a whole lot more complicated, a lot more information. Because we do have audio, video, and all the patrol cars that normally do the traffic stops, and we're allowed to just produce these particular numbers that you see on the page there, and input those. So that certainly helps. And it's already complicated enough to get this information. If we weren't doing the audio video, it would be really tough.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that audio video is
Well, because it used to be, in my tenure on the commission, it used to come in notebook form.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, in a loose leaf
reminder. You did get all the information. I was compiling all that, and let me tell you, the information behind us like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the T-Close Commission when we started doing all of this, and it was just sort of controversial, and how to do it and all that kind of stuff. So it's good.
Well,
We could have 1 page report.
I'm glad it's down to this, because it was really tough to do.
Were any surprising findings, Chief?
No, it's been pretty consistent since we started. These are about the same numbers as always.
And especially there were 0 complaints. during 12.
Racial profile. Any
Yeah.
other complaints?
Few, not plenty.
Yeah, the grand scheme of things.
One who's got to do some coaching over here.
Very well.
Good job.
This isn't part of our requirement.
You know, the reports are required to be presented to you in this manner, and any questions you may have, they're of course public information.
And any information request for this goes to People's from now on. So if y'all need that, just get the People's website. You can get off of there.
They post it actually, don't they?
Yeah, you can get on their website. Now, if you want I think they offer the entire state. You're going to buy that, but I think you can drill down to each department separately if you want to.
Do we have any those little trifold colors that kind of have the graphics that see?
We do.
Can you get them up?
Certainly a reference. Absolutely. Let her grab those.
I may have one. I probably did have some.
One of the things you can pull out of there, I'd be afraid of.
Like with a rabbit out of a hat.
He probably has, a 7-year historical account.
I think I do. That is how I was aware that there's over 1,000 miles of paved streets
From your car?
from
Handled rightly, each of those can turn into an entire hour-long presentation to civic groups.
Yes.
With no need for additional information.
fact sheets.
You can all memorize it. All right.
Good job, Chief Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for what you did this weekend.
Give her just a moment to grab those. If you have any questions off it, we can try to answer it, and then we'll move to the closed session. Appreciate y'all coming in today. Having the meeting today, Marcus was mentioning a moment ago, does allow, if you approve the ordinance on second reading, us to get the 30-day publications going that we're required. 30 days or 1 day? There's a publication window we have to do on that readoption, and we had this
Of the curfew.
We had this pretty carefully designed with a little bit of fudge, so that would happen, and the amended ordinance would take place prior to the other expiring.
I don't know when they stopped doing that, but
It's the regular 10 days.
Regular 10 days.
Seems like they probably started something possible.
Jacqueline?
What are we looking for?
It does? Yeah.
I thought it was just the back part that fell off.
There's demographics on the back of it.
So it just has page and population.
And then the next page has like
I think ethnicity.
Yeah, you used to have it.
We'll look for an older one. See if
I have it in the audit.
197,000, isn't it?
All right.
Yes, here's population.
He was wondering about racial.
Oh, racial. Oh.
ethnicity breakdown and compare it. We can get that out of the capper.
925.
What else?
There, with that, we ask that you call a closed session.
While
We'll
we're
probably finish that a little early.
Counselor, can I ask a question that's not on the agenda, or do I have to wait until after the executive session before we go out into the 3 o'clock meeting?
What's your question about?
It's about this report that Jared forwarded to us on the economic impact of Medicaid expansion.
That's under legislative, and we have a legislative session on your agenda as item D10. And so feel free to ask your question and discuss it. That's why we have some of these issues we can't anticipate from week to week, but we know as long as the legislature's in session, there's going to be legislative topics pop up, and then you give them Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. But is closed session material?
If it's one of the exceptions I'm about to announce, legal advice, real estate, that's on Medicare and Medicaid.
Yes, sir.
Is it a legal question or a financial question?
It's a legal question. Well, a little of both. I mean, you can't separate one from the other.
Well, if it's appropriate closed session, we'll discuss it. If it's not, I'll invite you to ask me again when we open the door.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
All right, it's legal. Okay, we'll now call a closed session.